India has rejected today the big foreign policy story. We can talk about domestic policy, but this is the big story at the moment on our borders, because Nepal today has accused India of sending soldiers in plain clothes to the Himalayan nation and being responsible for the violence there. The Indian embassy in Kathmandu released a strongly worded statement condemning the remark as provocative and ill-intentioned. Nepalese Minister Satya Mandal had alleged that India is fanning unrest. There have been flesh crashes in Nepalese areas adjoining India, leading to curfew being imposed by the police. The body of a 24-year-old Indian youth, Ashish Ram, who was killed during a clash in Nepal, has also arrived in Raxaul amidst anti-Nepal sloganeering. The key to the problem, the new constitution, which has seen the unrest spiraling out of control. Okay, I want to go straight across to Prashant Jha, author of Battles of the New Republic, A Contemporary History of Nepal, and senior journalist. Prashant, your sense, is this now issue becoming one where India is finding itself in a very difficult position because the Nepalese government believes that India is stoking the violence?
Well, India is finding itself in a difficult position because this is a difficult situation within Nepal where India has got dragged in. Now, we saw this constitution that was promulgated on September 20th, but this constitution did not take into account aspirations of a substantial section of the population, especially the Madhesis who live in the plains bordering India. They believed that this constitution compromised the architecture of political representation, of affirmative action, created federal boundaries which would disempower them, and before the promulgation of the constitution, for 40 days, the Madhesis had been on the streets. Human Rights Watch has just come out with a report documenting state brutality and how 40 Madhesis had been killed. Now, in this situation, India stepped in and basically told the Nepali government that, look, this is going to spiral up into a bigger issue. Why don't you address the concerns of the Madhesis and then draft a constitution? Nepal chose not to listen. The constitution was promulgated, protests escalated as India had rightly anticipated, and the protests are now in their third month. Now, what is happening is that the onus is actually on the Kathmandu political leadership to deal with these internal dissenters. But the Kathmandu elite does not want to share power. I mean, that is at the root of it.
No, so
and that's why what they are doing is tarnishing the Madhesi movement. So I am saying as a Madhesi that the Kathmandu elite is tarnishing the Madhesi
crisis, not New Delhi. Kathmandu is responsible for this crisis, not New Delhi.
Yes, I am entirely convinced that Kathmandu is responsible for this crisis because a narrow political elite does not want to share power with Madhesis, who constitute 1/3 of the population, but power has been centralized with hill upper caste communities.
So what are India's options then, very quickly?
In Nepal. Will Nepal...
What are India's options?
What India is saying is that, look, India has to stay the course. India does not have a choice because this is the Sri Lanka 1983 moment in Nepal. If the Madhesis are not accommodated within the national constitutional framework, there will be growing radicalism, separatism, incidents like yesterday's will grow, and Indian citizens and Indian interests will get affected. India has to continue to pressure the Nepali political elite to be less myopic, to see sense, and to amend constitutions. Right. These are not intractable issues. A few amendments and revision of federal boundaries will be enough to bring the Madhesis back into the national mainstream. Okay. India cannot afford to have a separatist movement. So I think the pressure has to be on Kathmandu.
Okay. The pressure has to be on Kathmandu. It's the Kathmandu elite which is responsible for the protests in Nepal. Don't blame New Delhi is the message of Prashant Jha. Appreciate your joining us, Prashant.